This
Linda's on.
conference will now be recorded.
There I
Oh.
am.
Hi,
Good.
Linda. Good.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good. And good morning to those who are here in person. Thank you very much. Enjoying their pastries. Thank you very much. Okay. So let us get started over here. We have an action-packed Parsha here this week. Parsha Vayigash. And to just set the stage over here, the brothers had returned the second time, this time with Binyamin. Yaakov was very hesitant to send Binyamin, right? All he had from the love of his life, Rachel had died. Yosef, he had his bloody coat. He thought Yosef had died. And all he had was Binyamin. The brothers want to take Binyamin now. Perhaps there's a certain degree of mistrust after the whole Yosef incident. Perhaps it's just a concern over the dangers of traveling in those days. And he did not want to send him. Pen Yikrenu Ason. Something might happen. Something might happen. In the end, who carries the day? Who convinces him? Yehuda. What does Yehuda say? If I will take him there, I will bring him back. And if I do not, v'chatati l'cha kol hayamim, I will have sinned to you all of my days. All of my days means both in this world and the next world. Actually, we are told that later on, at the very end of the Torah, when the bones of the tribes are being carried on the way to Israel, the bones of Judah were bouncing around in his coffin. Why? Because he had excommunicated himself. And the Gemara learns out, if you do such a thing, even on condition that either the condition is fulfilled, there still is that repercussion until Moshe prayed on his behalf. So Yehuda really put himself out on behalf of Binyamin to bring him back. And they go and and everything is fine. They have a beautiful meal with Yosef. Everything is going great. And they think finally all this craziness is behind us. And they're on their way back. But of course, Yosef had planted his goblet, or had one of his men or one of his sons, presumably, had placed the goblet in Benjamin's bags. They chase after them. They come there. They check everyone's bags. They check Benjamin last, so as to not show they knew where it was going to be. And behold, that's the goblet. They say, okay, all you guys can go, but Benjamin has to come back as a slave. And of course, they're not going to allow that. Yehuda is not going to allow that. And they all come back to Egypt. Our Parsha begins, page 250, Perek Mem Dalid Pasuk Yud Chet, chapter 44, verse 18.
Rabbi. Rabbi,
Yes,
I can't see you. Can you turn your camera on, please?
do others see me? Yeah, I think it's on your end, because I see me, my
Oh,
camera is on, and the others see me.
okay.
Okay, sorry. Vayigash Elav Yehuda Vayomer Biadoni. Yehuda approached him and he said, please, my Lord, may your servant speak a word into my Lord, into you. Joseph, of course, doesn't know he's Joseph's ears. And Va'al Yichar Abcha Bavdecha, and don't get angry at me. Okay. The Vilna Gaon always finds fascinating aspects where everyone else misses it. For example, if you turn back one page to page 248. Now, right after the Parsha, we have a little writing over there. It says Kuf Mem Vav Psukim, 146 psukim. That we have after every Parsha we list how many psukim, how many verses are in that parsha. And a bar mitzvah boy, when he sees what his parsha is, that's where he goes and looks. How big is my parsha? How many psukim do I have that I'll need to read? What's unusual here, go to the end of that line, the tevot, words, alpayim chafhei. There are 2,025 words. Elsewhere, we don't list how many words there are in the parsha. Everybody see where I'm reading? Right? Last words, the tevot, alpayim chafhei. Words, 2,025. That is not common. We don't normally list how many words there are in a parsha. The Vilna Gaon says, why is that listed over here? Fascinating. When going back to page 200 and 228, Perek Mem Aleph, Pasuk 20, Pasuk chapter 41, verse Pasuk Men Gimel. And this is when Yosef had interpreted the dreams and had been elevated to the viceroy position. And they had him riding around on the chariot, the second chariot of Paro, right? And Vayikru Lefanav, they called before him Avrech. What does Avrech mean? Rashi has two approaches. One approach is Avrech, which means like it's a royal title. Another one is it's two words, Avrech. Av means old, a father, mature. Rach means young, mature in wisdom, young in years. Now, if Avrech is a royal term, then it's a single word. If it is a conjunction, it's actually two words. The Vilna Gaon says that's why it tells us how many psukim, how many words are in this parsha. So when you add it up, you only have 2,025 if Avrech is viewed as two words. So by telling us how many words are in the parsha, it's letting us know what is the preferred explanation of this word. That's the sort of thing that the Vilna Gaon sees. Let's come back to our parsha. It's written as one word, but is it actually two words? Is it a conjunction of two words or is it a single word? If it's royalty, it's one word. If it's a conjunction of two words, then even though it's written as one word, it'll be considered to be two words. In the tally of the words of the parsha, it'll be counted as two. Okay, that's an example of the Vilna Gaon's insight. Over here, we have another fascinating insight, and that is we're familiar with the trup. The trup is how I read it. Vayigash elav Yuda vayomer bi'adoni. Right, there's trup, there's musical notes that tells us how it should be sung, how it should be chanted. That's called the trup, the cantillation. The Vilna Gaon says the trup also teaches us wisdom. Besides the trup breaking it up for us, that we know where to pause, but there's meaning in the trup also. Meaning what? Vayigash elav. There's a name for each of these trups. When you have those two, right? See Vayigash elav, you have the line pointing up and the line pointing up to meet it, so to speak, on those two words. That's called Kadma Viazla. Kadma Viazla, which means Kadma. He got up and he went. The next trup, Yehuda, the dot above the Dalid, is called Rivi'i. That's the name of that trup. What does Rivi'i mean? Sorry? The fourth. So what's the Trup telling us? Kadma v'azla revi'i. He got up and went. Who got up and went? The fourth. Who's the fourth? Yehuda, Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. So the Trup is coming to explain to us, why is Yehuda the one who is jumping to the fore over here? Kadma v'azla revi'i. Let's continue. Vayomer bi Adoni. That laying down S is called a zarka. The backwards L under the word B is a munach, and the three dots above the yud of Adoni is a segol. Okay, so it's zarka, munach, segol. Zarka, what is lizrok? To throw. Munach, menucha, Shabbos menucha, the rest, the tranquility of Segol, of Segula, because he had thrown away the splendid rest. What is the splendid rest? Olam haba, the world to come. So the Trup is telling us this story. Vayigash elav Yehuda. The fourth one got up and went. Why? Because he had endangered his eternal tranquility, that if he would not bring back Binyamin, then he would have sinned for eternity, this world and the next world. And what does Yehuda have to say? Let's go in English. Yehuda says, this has made no sense whatsoever. This has been so bizarre right from the start. Verse 19, my Lord asked his servants, have you a father or a brother? Imagine you're checking out at Wholesome Choice. Hi, do you have a father or a brother? I'm just getting my tomatoes and my bananas. Why do you ask me these questions? We came down to Egypt to get food. Right? We weren't trying to make a shidduch. We weren't trying to marry your daughter, or right? Like, what's going on over here? We said we have an old father and a young child of his old age. His brother is dead. Rashi points out that they said yes because he was afraid. If we'll say we don't know where he is, who knows? This maniac's going to tell us, right? Well, you got to bring him also. And he alone is left from his mother, and his father loves him. Then he said to your servants, bring him down to me. I want to set my eye. I want to see him. We said the youth can't leave his father. If he leaves his father will die. But you said to your servants, if he does not come down with you, you cannot see my face again. And it was, verse 24, we went back to your servant, my father. We told him your words. Our father said, go back, buy us some food. We said, we can't go down. Only if the younger brother is with us can we go down. We can't come before the man's face if our youngest brother is not with us. Then our father said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One has left me, and I presumed, alas, he has surely been torn to pieces. I have not seen him since. You take this one too from my presence, and a disaster befalls him. I will go down to my grave in tremendous sadness. And now, Yehuda concludes, if I come to your servant, my father, without Binyamin, without the young boy, without the youth, his soul is bound up with his soul. When he sees that the youth is missing, he will die. And we will have brought down our father down to the grave in sorrow. I took responsibility, 32, page 253, verse 32. Your servant, I, Judah, I took responsibility, saying, if I don't bring back the chatati lecha lavi kol yamim, I will have sinned to you all of my days, I said to my father. Therefore, let me remain instead of the youth as a servant to you. Let the youth go up with his brothers. How can I go to my father if the youth is not with me, lest I see the evil that will befall my father? Joseph 45, Yosef lo yachol Yosef lihit apek. He can no longer control himself, restrain himself. In the presence of all those who are there, he said, Hotziu kol ish me'alai, everyone out. He lifted up his voice. Verse 3, Vayomer Yosef el Echav. Yosef said to his brothers, Ani Yosef. I am Joseph. Ha'od avi chai. Is my father still alive? Strange question. On the simplest level, what do you mean my father's still alive? Yehuda just kept talking to you about my father, my father, my father. If I come back without Binyamin, my father's going to die, my father's going to die, my father's going to die. Why is he asking, is my father still alive? Simple shot is maybe Yehuda was just saying that to get me to release Benjamin. Okay, you don't have to worry. I'm Yosef. Is he really still alive? Okay, that's the simplest level of approach. But let's evaluate this according to the different approaches we had last week as to why Yosef was putting his brothers through all of this, why Yosef was not writing. One approach was that Yosef wanted them to do complete teshuvah, complete return, regret, complete teshuvah. That's what Yosef wanted over here. And we saw they started to lament in last week's Parsha because the boy cried, we didn't listen. That's why we're going through all of this. Now, at the root, at the core, and why did he plant? According to that, why did he plant the cup by Benjamin? Well, let's see how they really feel about Benjamin. Right? He created the perfect storm for them. They had to sell Joseph, into slavery. Now, if father had that same favoritism for Binyamin and they hate Binyamin, now he's serving it to them on a silver platter. You don't have to sell him into slavery. He stole. He got caught. Right? This is perfect. But now he hears Reuven's words. Listen to these words. Go back to page 251, verse 27. Your servant, my father, said to us, you know my wife bore me 2 sons. Ow. Ow. Yehuda is saying, my father said my wife bore me 2 sons. Who's my wife? Rachel, not Judah's mother. Judah's mother, also his wife, bore him 6 sons. Rachel bore him 2 sons. What's Yehuda saying? My wife, not your mother Judah, bore me 2 sons. Not you and your brothers. You're almost not my sons. My wife bore me 2 sons. Wow. That's painful. But Yehuda is able to say this. And let's go to verse 30. And now, if we come back to your servant my father, the youth is not with us, his soul is so bound up, when he sees the youth is missing, he will die. So what am I proposing instead? Verse 33, let me remain as your servant. Let the youth go back with his brothers. When they go back and I'm not there, he's not going to die. Ow again. Ouch again. If we go back without Binyamin, he's going to die out of grief. But if Binyamin's there and they go back without me, nope. And Yehuda is okay with this. Yosef sees that they have come full circle. And they're willing to accept, not like Leah said, that since Yaakov loved Rachel more than her, she felt hated, despised. No, it's okay. He can love Rachel more than my mother. And with Rachel dead, he can have a greater connection to her two sons than to me. And I'm okay with that. I can accept that. I've shared, I don't know, with this group. I, I grew up in a merged family. My mother passed away when I was very young. My father remarried a wonderful woman who was my mother, my stepmother, for 30 plus years. She brought two children into the marriage. And we had 5 at the time. And there were 3 older. And myself and my sister, Lashon, we were the 2 younger. So it was really the 4 of us who were really in the house, 2 and 2. I forget the situation that came up, but there was a situation where it looked like there was a little bit of favoritism from, I forget the situation, from one parent to their 2. And there was a family meeting. And my father and my mother, they were swearing head to toe, there's no favoritism, everyone's equal, swearing head to toe. And we sort of said to them along these lines, Mom and Dad, let's be real over here. There is no favoritism in the house, meaning no one gets more than anyone else. No one gets treated differently than anyone else. At the same time, we realize, we appreciate that it's impossible to feel the same way to children that you birthed and raised from infancy and went through the loss of a spouse with, and feel the very same way to children who you met a year and a half ago. So we're okay. We understand. Everyone's treated the same. If anyone, these children get that and those children don't, that would not work. But in terms of where you're at, we're okay. We understand. We're all human over here. And to a degree, that's what Ruvain has come to over here. Yes, Yaakov worked 7 years to marry Rachel. I'm sorry, Yehuda. Thank you. That's what Yehuda's come around to over here. Yes, our father Yaakov worked 7 years for Rachel. And then my mother was substituted. And he worked another 7 years for Rachel. And had 2 children. And one of them, he thinks is dead. We know that we sold him down the river over here. So we understand that he is, and now Rachel's dead. Yosef's gone. All he has left from that is Binyamin. I understand. We're okay with that. Yosef hears this realization, this recognition, this incredible maturity that Yehuda has reached. And according to those that he's putting them through all this to make sure they've come back to where they need to be, at this point, sorry.
Let there be light.
At this point, full circle. I'm Yosef. I'm Yosef. Ha'od Avichai, is my father still alive with all the pain that he has endured? Wow. How has he endured this? That's one approach. Yes.
I'm just amazed by Yehuda.
Yeah.
And you did mention Ruvain, and he is the firstborn, but he didn't understand that at all because he moved his dad's bed.
Yeah. Yes, I hear that. Yes, Gabriela.
So you mentioned the trip at the beginning. I think it's really interesting the kamatz being to get up because he's approaching, but then it's Rabbi placed on Yehuda's name, which is like a descending note. So it's like you're getting up and then you're going down. And so it's kind of like he's rising up to the occasion to humble himself. Like
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. I heard that. So, Gabriela pointed out the Revi'i, the trup is Revi'i, which is this descent. So he was rising up to humble himself before Yosef. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Interesting contrast to one of the previous Parshot where he went down when he met Tamar. He had gone down in his brother's estimation.
Right.
So because of what he had suggested that they do.
And now he has risen back up.
Yes.
Kalma v'azla, which is getting up. We hear the tone going up. Yeah. Yehuda has redeemed himself. Absolutely. Now, another approach we mentioned, and we touched upon this last week, is that why didn't Yosef write home? Why didn't Yosef, right? Because Yosef was an abused child. Right? And Yosef did not want to go back. We mentioned the names he gave his sons was, I'm leaving it all behind over here. Right? And Yosef was suspicious that his father might have been in on the whole deal, on the whole sale. And Yosef is wondering, because otherwise, why wouldn't he have sent out a search party? And he mentioned the idea that we always think other people know what we know. Right? They know what we're thinking, so why didn't they invite me? Why didn't they this me? Right? Whatever it might be. Right? But no, right? I was telling one of my kids when they were a teenager, right? Everyone's gonna look at me and say this, right? And I said, sweetheart, everyone's thinking everyone's looking at them. But everyone's thinking about themselves. No one's thinking about everyone else. Right? Not everyone's gonna be looking at you, and everyone's gonna be thinking, right? And so we always think we know. So Yosef, right? So we know what happened with Yaakov. We know that Yaakov was in mourning. We know Yaakov was shown a blood-soaked coat. Yeah, we know Yaakov said he's been torn apart. And we know that Yaakov has never gotten over that state of mourning that he's in. That's what we know. We assume Yosef knows it. Yosef does not know that. Now, for the first time, he hears these words. Verse 28. One has left me, and I presumed, alas, he has surely been torn to pieces. I have not seen him since. All of a sudden, those words come crashing down on Yosef. Oh, that's why he didn't come searching for me. He thinks I died. And he's been mourning me ever since. Oh my gosh. So now what does he say? Ani Yosef, I'm Yosef. Ha'od avi chai. Is my father still alive? He still loves me. I thought he had given up his fatherhood connection to me. Is my father still alive? Wow. The whole world just changed right now. My whole perception of life just completely changed now. The Medrash, though, has another take on it. The Medrash says, Oy lanu miyom hadin, oy lanu miyom atochacha. Woe to us for the day of judgment. Woe to us for the day of reproof. Here is Yosef, the youngest of the brothers, and they cannot answer. Right? The pasuk says, pasuk 3, V'lo yachlu echav la'anot oto. The brothers were speechless; they cannot answer him. Ki nivhalu mipanav. They were so shook up from before him. There's another way of looking at it. Yehuda is saying, "My father, my father, my father. I'm so concerned about my father. Have pity on my father. My father, my father, my father. We can't have my father go through this anguish. My father, my father's pain, my father's anguish, my father's sorrow, my father mourning." Yosef says to them, you can sell that bill of goods to everyone else in the world. Everyone else in the world will buy your impassioned plea about your concern for your father. But there's one person in the world who will not buy it. I'm Yosef. I'm Yosef. The guy that you sold down to Egypt. Why weren't you thinking about your father then? Don't tell me you're concerned about your father. Everyone else will buy that story except for me. I know the grief, the anguish, the sorrow, the mourning that you caused our father. So don't you dare talk to me about your concern for father's sorrow. Ha'od avi chai. According to this, is our father still alive after what you put him through by selling me down to Egypt? That's what the Medrash picks up on. Oy lanu miyom hadin, oy lanu miyom atochacha. There's the day of judgment and there's the day of rebuke. And the Beis Halevi explains, what are these two aspects? There's the judgment. You did this and this. Then there's your explanation. Yes, I did, but this or that, this or that. Yes, I didn't give this tzedakah when the person came to me. Things were tight. Okay, let's go to the video. There you are at a Laker game. What do those tickets cost? There you are at the Met. What are those Brooklyn, right? I couldn't get up so early to go to shul. It was too early in the morning. Right? There you are, Vail, Colorado, hitting the slopes at 6 a.m. Right? Let's go to the video. That's the Yom Hadin and the Yom HaTochacha. The Tochacha is the rebuke where your own actions contradict and disprove what you're saying. That was what Yosef said to them. Ani Yosef, ha'od avi chai. Your own actions contradict, refute the whole argument that you are making. Yes, Cheryl.
So their hatred overcame anything else.
At the time.
Yes.
At the time.
And
yes.
then they understood afterwards, when it was too late, what they really did.
Yeah. They had mistakenly thought that with Yosef out, now that special love he had for Yosef would be now shared with them. But in fact, when you lose someone, they just become that much greater and greater and greater, and the loss, right? So it didn't minimize Yosef in the eyes of Yaakov. It just magnified. Yeah,
But
intensified.
also, the brothers did to him what he did to them. Because he misunderstood what they were doing, and now they misunderstood what Joseph was all about with the dreams and everything.
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we mentioned last week. That Yosef wanted them to see how it feels to be wrongly accused, misunderstood and wrongly accused. Yes, Esther.
And the fact that Judah is doing all this because he also had lost two sons. Two of his sons had died.
Mm.
He had given, his wife, or he had given Tamar to his
Right.
first son, who was struck down, and then Onan, his second son, died. So he is very familiar with the loss of a son.
Wow. That's a beautiful thought. I never thought of that before, heard that before. That Yehuda, beautiful. Yehuda knows how his father feels. Right? Yehuda just lost sons. Now he knows how his father feels after having lost Yosef. And he knows just how devastating, what a calamity it will be if he loses Binyamin, right? Because he himself lost sons. So that is why he was able to step up, right? Very nice, beautiful. Is that your own thought? Or you saw something?
I
Beautiful.
thought about that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. It's the Lithuanian.
Beautiful. Beautiful idea. And also when Ruvain said about his sons, right? When Reuven tried to guarantee Binyamin's, right? My two sons will die, right? Yaakov dismissed that, right? They're also my sons, right? But you don't know what it's like to lose a son, so it's easy for you to say that. Yehuda spoke up. Yehuda knows what it's like to lose a son and potentially lose a second son. He I can trust. He I can rely on. That's a beautiful idea. Wow. I never saw anyone mention that like that. That's a beautiful, beautiful idea. Let's go a little further over here because we have such an important. I wrote about this in this week's newsletter, but it's such an important point. Pasuk Dalet, verse 4. Yosef says to his brothers, "Come close to me." They came close, and he said, "Ani Yosef achichem." I'm Yosef, your brother. Meaning the brotherhood is there. Asher machartem oti Mitzrayim, that you sold down to Mitzrayim. Right? If you have any doubts if I'm really Yosef or not, I know what no one but you and I can know. Viata, an incredible pasuk, verse 5. And now, al teyatzvu, don't be saddened. Val yichar beinechem, and do not get angry. Ki machartem oti heina, that you sold me here. Ki lemichya shalachani Elohim lifnechem. In order to be a source of sustenance, God has sent me before you. Right? Because another 2 years of the famine have 2 years of the famine have passed, 5 more years. Pasuk Zayin. God has sent me before you to establish for you a remnant in the land and to give life to that, give survival for you. Pasuk Chet, verse 8. Va'ata, now, lo atem shalachtem oti heina. You did not send me here. Ki ha'elokim. God sent me here. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, a master over the house, a ruler over all of Egypt. You didn't send me here. God did. What is Yosef telling the brothers over here? And this is such an important concept as to how we can get over harm that was done to us by different people along the way in our lifetime. What do you mean? They sold him. What do you mean it wasn't you, it was God? What is Yosef saying here? Jenny, I see you getting ready.
He's saying that you were just the instrument of the bigger plan, that you were the tool to fulfill the plan that was already in place.
You were the tool to fulfill the plan, to fulfill God's plan that was already in place. So are they therefore not responsible for what they've done?
No, they are. I think they are responsible, but
They are responsible.
they're responsible, but good came out of the plan anyway. The original plan, but they're not absolved from doing it.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
It's like, if a master builder picks up a hammer and nails something, the hammer does the actual nailing, but it doesn't have a life of its own to do that unless it's, given direction.
Okay. Okay.
And it's much like Esther, Queen Esther too, her role, because Mordecai told her it would be good if you were to do this and go before the king, but if you don't, God's plan is going to work out through another means.
Good. Beautiful. And you and your father's house will be in a state of disgrace for not being the one to step up and do it. So this is such a powerful concept. Right? Esther gave the example of the master builder and the hammer. The only difference is the hammer has no free will. So Yosef said to them as follows: if I ended up down here in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, it meant I had to be down here in Egypt. That was part of the master plan. And the master plan was that I be down here in Egypt to be here to help you. Remember, the first dream was that the sheaves were bowing down. That is the physical sustenance. That's the food. So I needed to be down here to support you. I recognize that I was sent here in order for me to serve you, to sustain you and the family. That does not absolve you guys. But that has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with me. Meaning, I needed to get down here. You guys chose to be the ones that sent me down here. That's between you and God. That's nothing to do with me. I've got to deal with the fact that God wanted me to be here, and I have to figure out, why did God want me to be here? And I think I figured it out in order for me to support you. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Right? The Chavetz Chaim says that when someone embarrasses you, picture it that you've got this tar on your back. And you get into this hot bath, you hand a friend a bristled brush and say, do me a favor, please scrub. It hurts. Your skin is turning beet red underneath it, but the tar is off. This person has gotten the tar off of your body. When you went through an embarrassing situation, that serves as kapara, that serves as cleansing, as atonement for you. What was the person's intent? That's between them and God. What did I receive from this? A good cleansing. Yosef said, I needed to be down here. If I didn't need to be down here, then I would not have made it down here. So I'm not focusing on you. Right? There's the pasuk says that we're told lo tikom v'lo titor. Right? We're not allowed to take revenge. Right? Why? Taking revenge is compared to you throw a stick at a dog. What does the dog do? He grabs the stick. The stick. It's the stick. It's not, the stick was just thrown, right? How about the person who threw the stick, right? You're taking revenge. You're grappling with the stick. For whatever reason, you needed to go through this pain, this difficulty, whatever it is, for whatever reason. And we often speak about that. None of us will say, we all love a good vacation, a nice, beautiful place to visit, but none of us will say that we became a greater, deeper person because of the time that I spent on the beach. Right? We become greater, deeper people because of the difficulties in life, the hurdles that come in life, the challenges we've had, the hard times that we've had, the losses we've sustained. That is what has made us better, deeper human beings, better, deeper Jews, better, deeper servants of God. So if something doesn't go your way, recognize this is meant to be or not to be. I'm supposed to endure this or not get what I hope to get because this is what I'm supposed to go through. So I'm not going to shoot the messenger. That's not the issue over here. Yosef recognizes it's not you that sent me down here. It is Hashem. And that is, I think, such a important life lesson to spend a lifetime trying to internalize that when things don't go the way we want. Now, chas v'shalom, if a person is in an abusive situation, then we don't say this is God, right? A person needs to say, okay, right, whatever I've endured until now, I've endured, but I've got to extricate myself from this, right? And not avail oneself for more and more, right? But we're talking about the normal ups and downs of life, to recognize where it truly comes from. Just one other thing I wanted to point out. There's a lot that goes on. Let's see this. So he sends the message to his father. Let's turn to page 254. Yosef tells the brothers, the very top of 254, verse 9, quickly, go up to my father and say to him, Ko Amar bincha Yosef. The message they're supposed to give is, this is what your son Joseph has said. Samani Elokim la'adon l'chol Mitzrayim. God has placed me as a master over all of Egypt. That's the message to give. Ko Amar bincha Yosef. This is what your son Joseph says. God has placed me a master over all of Egypt. Turn to page 256. What do they say to their father? Vayagidu, verse 26. They told him saying, Od Yosef Chai. Yosef is still alive, and he's the ruler over all of Egypt. What did they leave out? I'm sorry? Besides that, from the words that Yosef told them, tell father this. What did they omit? Good. Yosef said, God has placed me the master over Egypt. What do they say? He's the master over Egypt. What else did they leave out?
He was the tool to serve them.
I'm looking at verse 9 and verse 26. Okay. But there's something, yes? Who's sending the message? Your son Joseph, as opposed to Jojo from Egypt. Right? Do we hear that? When the message he wanted to say is Bincha Yosef, your son Joseph, your son Yosef. I'm still your son. I am the embodiment of who you are. I'm carrying on your legacy. I'm carrying on your ways. I'm your son. God has made me the ruler over Egypt. Realize Egypt was the seat of immorality. You tell Yaakov, Joseph's alive, and he runs Vegas. He's the number one man in Vegas. He controls Vegas. How's that going to make Yaakov Avinu feel? Oh my gosh. Right? He doesn't want to hear JoJo's in Vegas. He wants to hear that his son Yosef recognizes that God appointed him to this position. What was Yaakov's reaction? He couldn't believe them. Look at Pasuk Chav Zayin. Vayedabru elav et kol divrei Yosef asher diber alehem. Oh, now he tells them what? Now they tell him what? Kol divrei Yosef. All the words of Yosef asher diber alehem, that he had spoken to them and told them. It's not just Yosef. It's your son Yosef. He's not just the ruler. God, he said, God has appointed me as the ruler over Egypt. He saw the wagons. Vatechi ruach Yaakov avihem. The spirit of Yaakov finally comes back to life after all these years thinking Yosef had died. Vayomer Yisroel. He's no longer Yaakov. He's no longer Yaakov in his state of mourning. Now he is in this uplifted state. Vayomer Yisroel Rav. Whoa. Od Yosef Bini Chai. Oh, thank you. Thank you for telling me the whole story. Yosef Bini. Yosef, my son, is alive. Oh. Elcha, let me go. Ver'ena, let me see him. V'terem amut. Right, while I still can, let me go up and go see him. Vayisa Yisroel, and Yisroel went. Now it's Yisroel. Right, he's back in this exalted, uplifted state of Yisroel now. Wow. All right, so hearing that Jojo runs Vegas wasn't going to do it for Yaakov Avinu. That wasn't going to bring back the spirit of Yisrael and uplift the Yaakov. Okay? All right, my friends. Good. We got a lot over here. And like I said, action-packed Parsha. We have Yaakov coming before Paro. A lot going on over here. Okay, my friends. I think some important life direction lessons that we get over here. Okay. Thank you very much, those online. Thank you very much, those in person. Thank you very much for the pastries. Now they said, I can't call it pastries and Parsha. I have to call it Parsha and pastries.
Right.
I stand corrected, yes.
Thank you.
The Iker and the Tafel, the main and the other. Good.
So I have a comment, but I'm not sure if this could go anywhere. So between the two generations, Yitzchak and Rivka, and then Yaakov and his two wives, in both those generations, you have in the patriarchs, you have like dreams, right? So Rivka had a dream that the younger would, serve, or the younger would rule.
We're not told that was a dream.
Oh, it was like a vision, huh? Okay.
A vision that actually, according to Rashi, that was told to shame the son of Noach and then, or Aver, and then relate to her. Wasn't this okay?
That was kind of my question, because I was like, there's too many parallels in a sense that in both generations, like you have divine revelation, whether through a dream or a vision, that
Right.
there would be a certain order. And then with Rivka, it seems like she tries to contrive that, but not necessarily. And then in the situation, there's like a manipulation to try to avoid or to make it happen. And so with the brothers, like, I'm just noticing how in both cases, one, you had the parent who had that vision, and then the second, with Yosef, you have the son who has that vision or the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like, it runs in the family, one way of putting it. But it's like, it's kind of interesting, like when that's why we don't necessarily have Ruach HaKodesh, because it's like right now, because it's
Handle with care.
Yeah, it's like we don't really, like, do we want to know? What happens when we know? Like, in this kind of looking at these two stories.
Yeah. Rabbi Sachs says very beautifully, why do bad things happen to good people? Say, we don't want to know the answer. Because if we knew the answer, we wouldn't try to help the person. Right? So we're not supposed to know the answer. Right? It's all part of God's plan, but part of God's plan also is that it will trouble us, and we will do our best to right the ship, to correct the situation. Right? If we know too much, then it could be, lo b'shamayim. Right? God knows why he's doing it, but we're down here. We're meant to see things through human eyes and do our best to alleviate, uplift, and help. Yeah. All right, my friends. We'll call it over here. Baruch Hashem, my daughter Devora, whose flight